What's going on, gamers? So we got something to cover here, going back to Moore's Law is Dead, replying to Insider Gamer's post based off of what Kepler said, right? Saying that the PS6 won't use full RDNA 5 GPU architecture, it's claimed. Now, Moore's Law challenges, not necessarily Inside Gamer, but Kepler and calls him out. And this definitely sparked some debate. We got Reforge Gaming's video coming up too, saying PS6 leaks the telephone game. Which is a good video. I didn't finish it, but I'm going to finish it through this react because there is definitely some stuff to add in, and we definitely need to cover it so that we can realize what's the important thing here and why this is less important even compared to the PS5's 1.8 RDNA compared to Series X full RDNA 2. Yeah. So Moore's Law is Dead came in and said PS6 documentation, which I have leaked pictures of, just like the PS5 Pro, literally list RDNA 5. Nowhere did it say that Sony wasn't using RDNA 5. It specifically is saying that Sony is using a custom RDNA 5 aspect. So Moore's Law is Dead. Stop following fake leakers. And go to the real source of recent PS6 leaks. Moore's Law is Dead. Now, that's a very interesting statement because he's saying he's tired of the frauds, right? We go down here. Tom Henderson said, with all due respect, Kepler is genuinely one of the most trusted chip tech leakers in the industry. Cole Teachwood said PS5 also lists RDNA 2 and almost always proven to be RDNA 1 with some features from 2. Subek says, what is sad is no one seems to want to give you credit, but will say your report as their own. It's very disappointing and exposes to people who aren't true journalists. So then we have down here, you can have RDNA 5 without all the RDNA 5. PlayStation doesn't need every single thing. They're not making a PC. That's 100% correct. That's why they're doing custom RDNA 5. And we're going to get to that in a second. So we get this idea right here, right? It gets very dramatic here. And then we got Reforge Gaming's video. So look, we're going to get to this and I'm going to say what I have to say real quick. Look, guys, I told you this before and I'm going to tell you it again. When you get to that type of technology, it doesn't matter anymore. Games are going to look and run so good, everything is going to be 60 frames per second with ray tracing on. Everything is going to have 120 frames or like 70, 80, 90 frames per second mode. You're already going way past the spectrum of what nobody has right now in the PC gaming market. You see what I mean? You look at Valve's list, they showed you what people were playing on Steam. They were having 3060s all over the place, a huge chunk of it. Nobody gets a 4090. Nobody gets a 5090. That's like 1% and under. So when you see the PlayStation 5 coming with those type of specs, you see what I mean? And then you see the Magnus 2 as well, which is also more of a PC. But I'm saying, like, once you get to the PS5, it's like, after that, do you really think it's going to matter? You're going to need 2 magnifying glasses. You have to zoom in like this at a Digital Foundry video to start noticing the difference, because it's like, it doesn't matter at that point. The technology is so advanced now that everything already looks good as it is right now, even with the Pro. You see what I mean? It's like, guys, it's stupid, childish nonsense because it doesn't matter anymore. Diminishing returns are going to be meta peak. So I want to add that in. Whether Sony does it or not, it doesn't matter. And since they know that, they're going to get that price cheaper and get more PlayStations to people and keep it more in the console-like ballpark. That's intelligent. Now, let's see what Reforge Gaming has to say. Let's go. Are we ready, guys? Because, like I said, that's the important thing here.
Can we just please stop with the nonsense? Like, can we not do this all over again? Do you remember when we did this with the PlayStation 5 and the nonsense that it wasn't going to be RDNA 2, even though they were claiming that it was? And then we had people saying that the Xbox Series S was going to run circles around the PlayStation 5, and this was all before we had any good concrete information or performance tests or anything for either of the consoles. And did any of that turn out even close to reality? No, the pretty much opposite turned out to be the case. And we are once again now facing this sort of speculation and leaks and people coming to absolute false conclusions. And to be clear, this has nothing to do with the leakers. This has nothing to do with the reporting outlets. This is a machine that runs on bad interpretation and misinformation. So Kepler, renowned hardware leaker, says that it will not be full RDNA 5 on the PlayStation 6. Totally legitimate, nothing wrong with that. Insider Gaming and other outlets are running with headlines that basically say the PlayStation 6 will not feature full RDNA 5. It is currently claimed. Now, Moore's Law is Dead is another hardware leaker and YouTuber, and he pushed back and said, listen, I've already leaked this, and both Sony and AMD internally refer to this system as having RDNA 5. And
Yeah, that's where he came in and said this. It lists RDNA 5. Not that it needs to be full-blown RDNA 5. Let's charge $100 more, $125, $150, you know what I mean? It's like, why do you need to do that when you have RDNA 5? And that is an insane leap going from the PS5, which is 1.8, right? Or RDNA 2 type futures, all the way up to 3 generations later. It's like, do you know how much of a jump that is and how good those games look right now? It's like, that's what I'm saying. When you get to that point, you have a way better CPU, double the RAM, maybe more than double the RAM. Dude, who cares? You're going to be having like FSR 4.5, FSR 5. You see what I mean? Like, guys, I'm telling you, when you get that, you're going to be getting like 120, 180, 200 first. Like, it's going to get to that point. It's like, once you get to that, why do you care? The comparisons are still going to be done because that's fun to do. But I mean, if you really think that that reduces the quality when you're already hitting meta and everything else, and it's always 60 plus frames no matter what, then to me, you're being a child. Because it's like, I don't see the point of caring now, like more than ever. That's why I said PS5 Series X, it's like you couldn't even do full RDNA 2 with Xbox because devs would have to do that from the ground up. But things were more catered toward PlayStation because they had the market lead and they sell more and they make more people money. But at that point, I can be like, okay, because like you can still have a huge difference between PC and that. But now when you get to that PS6 difference, like it doesn't matter anymore.
Was getting, I think, a little cagey. And I think some of that's because he knows where this leads. He's going to get inundated with comments and hate and criticism from people saying, hey, you said it had RDNA 5. Now we're hearing that it won't. And you're like, wait a minute. Why would anybody think that it doesn't have it when all that was claimed and reported was that it wouldn't have full RDNA 5? This is why this matters.
That's correct. So like if you took something, like it could be misinterpreted. We've probably done it before, right? But when you start finding out this intel now, it's explained better. Like when you say, no, they're saying it's not full RDNA 5. The Xbox, which is going to be a full-blown PC, and Microsoft doesn't care about the price because they're just selling hardware, is going to have all of the full-blown features. Sony's like, no, I'm going to cut back on that, and use this, and I'm going to do a custom, because when you're doing that, now you're customizing it because you're not just using a full max. You're going to your custom settings, like a custom setting on a PC. And at that point, you're saying now, we're going to be using this, a custom RDNA 5. We don't need to do all of that because we still need to sell 70, 80, 90, 100 million consoles. And we need to find that balance. At this point, who cares? You know how good games look now? We already have that. And power's not going to be the selling point of next gen anyway. So price point is more important than that. And releasing it at the proper time, like in late 2028 probably at the earliest. Because everybody knows they're going to have to do that. So if you take not full RDNA 5 as not having RDNA 5, then you're not interpreting it correctly. It just means we're cutting back on some feats. And there's nothing wrong with that to get the balanced price point because that's the point of a console.
The headlines and Kepler are not the issue. It's this telephone game that we play that ultimately leads to misinformation.
Yeah.
People will see these headlines, they'll be thrilled to have something negative to say about a platform they don't like, and they will start circulating the false claim that the PlayStation 6 will not have RDNA 5. Now that misinformation then becomes headcanon. People basically just assume, yep, I heard it. Podcaster said it, YouTuber said it, whoever I follow on Twitter who constantly reaffirms my opinions about these platforms, well, they said it, so therefore PlayStation 6 won't have RDNA 5. It's going to be weak, it's going to be bad, it's not going to be worth getting. What I'm proposing is very simple. To cut through all of this nonsense just going forward, can we just call it custom RDNA 5? That's not misleading, that's not fluff. I'm not trying to make it bigger or better than it is. It's a custom version of RDNA 5, which is essentially the same thing that ended up happening with the PlayStation 5. It was custom. It wasn't everything, but it ended up working quite well. I don't think anybody could say that we've gotten terrible results this gen or that somehow, everybody that said that, the other systems were going to run circles around the PlayStation 5, like none of that ended up happening.
Nope, plus PlayStation has a better operating system because they're using Linux, and Linux is beating Windows in test. I don't think people remember that either. It's like, they are using Linux. Don't forget about that. That's the thing that I think people forget about.
This is an accurate way to talk about this. And I think what this ends up doing, it really prevents and sanitizes all of the news feeds about this. Instead of anybody putting out a video saying, oh, no RDNA 5, well, they can't get a whole lot of traction when all the headlines, all the videos, all the dialogue around this is, well, it's custom RDNA 5. Why are you saying there isn't any? This, I think, is a great way to push against misinformation, is have terminology, have phrasing, have categories that accurately describe something. This is something I've been very, very big on with video games, with hardware, with any piece of content that comes out to market or discuss something. Just accurately describe what somebody might purchase. And the entire runway from here all the way to the PlayStation 6, it's going to be extremely frustrating if we have to deal with another couple of years of just constant misinformation and false headcanon, because headlines empowered those who have, I think, bad intentions with talking about these subjects. So
yeah, I get what he's saying. That's why Moore's Law came and did this. That's why you have to be around. Hey, you're going to give me some content to make. If you want to do that, I'm going to be right there to correct it. That's why he was saying that it lists RDNA 5. He didn't say full RDNA 5, but we all know that custom would be the correct word here. Tom just said won't use full RDNA 5 GPU architecture. Tom did not say it won't have RDNA 5. Tom is a smart person. He's not going to do that.
I'm going to call it custom RDNA 5, and
Yeah.
I think that's going to serve us really well to talk about this in the future, to not get bogged down into these absolutely meaningless discussions and debates where we debate things that aren't even remotely based in reality or truth. So that's what I think about it. That's what I'm going to do going forward. What do you think about it? We talked about this the other day in a live stream. Wanted to put together a quick video for you. So remember to hit like, share, and subscribe so I can see you in the next video.
That's not a bad video. That's actually correct. That's an intelligent video. I know what he means. We're just trying to balance the spectrum here and get people to see the proper facts here. Because if you take that and you want to fanboy about it and then you want people to believe something negative, it's kind of insecure in a way, because it's like, no, unless you misunderstood it. You know what I mean? That can happen. But it's like, no. It has RDNA 5. It's just not full-blown RDNA 5. And if we realize that, that's why Tom's, I think his headline was actually not bad, because he says won't use full. Keyword here, full RDNA 5 architecture. It doesn't have to go full-blown, but it's still RDNA 5. You see what I mean? It's almost like I'm doing ultra settings, but I'm not doing full-blown ultra settings. But I have ultra settings on. I don't need everything to be ultra, and I'm still getting really amazing results. And you can't tell the difference when I'm lining up comparisons. Think about it, guys. You go into your PC, right? You put on ultra, like, damn, everything's ultra, man. I just lost 45 frames. Hold on, I don't need this to be ultra. I don't need this to be ultra. I don't need that to be ultra. And guess what? Now I got 45 frames. It still looks ultra. There's barely a difference, and maybe a little bit better, but you know what I mean? It's kind of like that, where it's like, but it's still ultra. Like, and if we can get that mentality, then we'll realize that the PS5 is RDNA 5, and Sony is tweaking it to get that balance of the price point. Because, like I said, this isn't a PS3 era, PS2 era, where you're going to make a huge jump, and there's still so much where he's like, man, there's no diminishing returns. Let's keep going. Now it's like, damn, I ran into a wall, and if I lean forward anymore, my nose is touching it. Like, you're hitting returns like that already in a certain sense when you get to the PS6. With the PS5 Pro, you're getting close to that wall. You know what I mean? There's still a distance on the wall on PC to a certain extent. But when you get PS6, I mean, it's like you're almost touching hands. You know what I mean? So if we get that, then it's like, who cares at this point? And if you want to brag about what you're going to get on the Magnus, sure, but that base is going to be so low, and you're not going to have a market for it that's going to be competing to sell even 10, 15 million. No. It's going to be like the Steam machine, man. It's no longer going to be in the NPD category because it's just a custom PC with Xbox backwards compatibility feeds. And it's going to be like $1,500, $1,400. You know, it's going to be expensive. So that's not, applicable. Though we can still do our comparisons. I don't mind that. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this now that we have a better understanding about what this means. And yeah, this pretty much now balances it. Later. Peace out. Keep gaming no matter what platform you're on. You know how I am. Game wherever you're at. If you're having fun, that's all that matters. Later.